The big theme for this time is going to be vibe coding, and this fits very well into our goal from the Vjal Institute, and Vjal means the path, and our goal is to get the path to AI success for each and every one of you. The goal is very simple: 1 million people, organizations, and governments transformed using AI, and we're trying to do everything possible to do this. We can't do this alone. A lot of our work is done by our wonderful champions trainers from all across the world. If you would like to become an AI trainer, we do now have an online program. I'm going to put that link in the chat for you in case anybody wants to have a look at out. It does require a bit of an online commitment, about 8 to 10 hours, a final exam. We also have a few in-person ones coming up, which I will share with you on email or during the next update. The big thing for us is really to try and make sure each and every one of you, your organizations, and your community are able to take all the advantages and opportunities of AI and really thrive in it. The vibe coding update, this is going to be incredible. So I'm going to try to go a little bit fast. There's a lot to cover. Honestly, this probably needs maybe a 90-minute, 2-hour complete workshop of its own, but I'll give you the highlights, particularly what you need to know, what's the state of the art, what's happening, and I'll give you a lot of examples. So what is vibe coding? So vibe coding is essentially being able to create software programs and apps by simply prompting, then writing code. But is rather than really knowing what's happening or seeing the code, you're feeling the vibe of the application and the vibe of the code, and you use the prompts to adjust them left, right, and center. This is not new. Much of this was enabled for a very simple reason, because vibe coding is nothing but using the LLMs to generate code. Does it work though? Yes, it does if you know what you're doing. And I'm going to put a huge caveat on this, for all of those things there. And I'm going to walk you through bit by bit on these. And let me make sure my screen share is working properly. Do I have pop-ups that are ignoring people? If you could give me a second. And let me try resharing this just to make sure we have this correctly done. And there we go. Great. Some of you might have seen some screen blocks, and I was trying to make sure those go out away. Fantastic. Let's look at this now. In the hands of expert programmers with years of experience, vibe coding can significantly expand their productivity. In the hands of inexperienced programmers or novices, it is dangerous. And it's dangerous for 3 reasons. And we're seeing lots of examples on the internet, a lot of examples being shared by the companies and organizations we work with. One, security. There's a lot of things that happen when you're creating complex code that requires security best practice. The vibe coding systems don't quite get this. We've seen people accidentally use, password files which are accessible on the internet. We've seen them give API keys out by mistake. All sorts of things happen if you aren't a little bit experienced in how some of this complexity works. Scalability is an issue. It works really well as a good POC, and we use this a lot, by the way, to just generate simple MVPs and POCs. But the moment you go beyond 5-10 users, the entire architecture collapses. And version control, it works once, you make a small change, it changes a bunch of the code base, and it never works again. And so you're always stuck at the old version. You can never sort of go in front if you don't know how you're doing it properly. What's the fundamental basis for vibe coding? So the large language models, as you know, and if you haven't done this, please look at our online courses. They play a fill-in-the-blank games and what the next word games, really to say what's the next word, what's the fill-in-the-blank, and that's how the modern transformer LLM architecture works. Programming languages are languages, and so large language models should be able to speak them fluently. Yes and no. So they do speak programming languages fairly fluently. I'm going to show you a couple of examples, but also you have to understand that it's not just one programming language, right? It's a lot of different programming language, and there's complexities to this. But the fundamental is that they should be able to speak it fluently. They are four different methods, and these are our categorizations at the Institute, where we are currently categorizing all the various tools that are coming out in this space. There's a full stack, end-to-end prompt-based integrated development environment, and I'll show you one. This is, again, Replit, Bolt, New, even Windsurf, I guess, which combines the coding assistant, the integrated development environment, and the compiler. So it has the coding environment, it can run the software, and it has the AI that can directly edit. Then you have the coding assistant AI pair programmers. GitHub Copilot works inside VS Code, for example, JetBrains, Codium. There's a whole bunch of them as well that are meant to clip on to something that you're already using rather than provide you with a full environment. This is usually for programmers who already have an existing workflow, which are doing really well. And you have no code, low code with AI augmentation. A great example of this is Lovable. Again, it's meant to work with people who have either interested in creating full end-to-end things without really even accessing or editing the code, just vibing their way towards a full low code or no code solution. And then you just have you have just the direct, which is just going into one of the classical large language models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, all of these, and just working it either in a canvas mode or in a normal mode and just getting code out and going to run them. So let's see what some of these look like. And I'll show you some of the experimentations that we've done. So I want to start off with a very simple one is looking at Gemini. Now, don't do this. I'm just showing you what is a very simple version, and I'll come to best practices and how you can use some of this in a more sophisticated manner. But even if you just start with something like Gemini 2.5 Pro, and by the way, Gemini 2.5 Pro, as of this talk, is probably the #1 coding model out there. Claude 3.7 had that crown maybe 3 weeks ago. Now it is 2.5 Gemini, and that's also due to context. And we'll talk about context and why that changed the game for Gemini Pro. But I just asked a very simple question: create a Tetris game, one chance, one shot. It created one game immediately, lots of lines of code, probably took 2 minutes. Now, it didn't get the one shot. There was an error because I couldn't see part on the screen. I copy pasted and said, hey, fix this. It fixed it, and we now have a decent Tetris game. And let me zoom out for you so you can see that in a proper system. And click onto the game. It works. You know, the scoring, and I'm just doing this at fast speed. And you get to see how bad I am at Tetris or good I am at Tetris. And so the entire game works well. And this is one shot, very cool. And, but quite frankly, we could do this maybe a year ago, right? This is not something that is really new. And while the games are fun, and that's, by the way, you'll see a lot of online stuff, and boom, it managed to get that as well. So I'll stop. We could go on playing Tetris forever. But so, in fact, a lot of the examples you see in vibe coding are games. In fact, the AI verse is full of people who made beautiful games, especially old school ones using vibe coding, and they're using third-party libraries, and they're usually very simple code. This is the entire code for Tetris ++ with some things. But the moment you get into more complicated stuff goes to die. So this is Lovable, and it's just making a simple CRM. And the prompt, again, was very simple. Please make a CRM for a manufacturing company. It managed to get quite a bit of these things in. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes the context won't work. There's a lot of errors that kept coming. It kept being build unsuccessful, build unsuccessful, build unsuccessful. So it looks good, but honestly, it's not there yet, particularly if you're just doing a simple prompt like, hey, let's just build a CRM system, right? This is the new Firebase Studio, me trying to figure out how to make a recruitment dashboard. And again, same issue, internal error, this, that. I mean, it's not there yet. And again, these are just one shot trying to use a very simple thing, and then I'll show you how this is. These are, again, very standard AI code tools. I'll show you Windsurf, which is a more sort of thing there. And this is sort of, again, that one-shot attempt at creating the CRM system. Again, lots of files, very complicated code base, and to some extent did work. And you can see this on the CRM dashboard and everything it came in. Again, half of these buttons don't work, half of these issues keep coming. Sometimes it moves things around, a lot of errors and bugs. And every time you fix a bug, a new one comes. And so, again, if you don't know what you're doing, this can be very, very disastrous. And this is a Replit, and I couldn't get it to run. It kept having this data table errors, this errors, that errors, etc. I tried all sorts of interesting things, but unless, I really went in and started editing the code and changing it myself, just vibe coding the ways, half the time it would work, half the time it would not work. So what does that mean for us? I mean, what's going wrong? Why can't this just do it, right? Why all these issues? Also, a couple of reasons why. So first, it's trained on a lot of public code, not necessarily good code, high performance or high secure code, right? So this is just trained on just, whatever it can find on the internet. Many of it are just tutorials, because a lot of tutorials code or Stack Overflow or something. And this isn't, high performance code. It's not really well done. And again, the real good stuff, right? The high security, high performance code is often not on the internet, right? It's behind proprietary, it's closed doors, right? One of the interesting things, however, this is going to change. So now you're going to have, so we were waiting for Llama 4 to come out with Llama 4 code. We'll talk about it. It's not beating the expectations as possible, but this year we expect code models. Code Llama was the last year's one, which are trained on high quality code. And so this quality will go up comprehensively by the end of the year. The second thing was the context window. Then we're going to show a view on the context windows, because this is really important to understand, right? If you have a context window of Claude, which is 128,000 words, ChatGPT 32,000 words, and you can't fit in the entire code base. So it's very good for a short program, but it can't read your entire code base, documentation, come up. This changed with Gemini 2.5 Pro, which has 1 million words. And so a lot of what I did right now, this 15, 20 minutes, even this much, was only possible after the Gemini Pro was enabled and was able to do that level of coding. But the problem also a lot on tech stacks, right? There's no such thing as one programming language, right? So you're choosing JavaScript and Python, but then is it Flask? Is it Node? Is it Vue? Then you're looking Golang, you're doing C#. So there's a lot of permutation and combinations of languages, different frameworks and structures. And this starts to create a bit of a problem, especially when outdated and incompatible issues. A lot of what I got was, hey, you use this library or use this thing there. And, okay, this is not compatible, that is not compatible. And the fundamental issue, what it is doing, and this is how you get good at this, it's very poor at making architectural choices while vibe coding. Now, this you can do outside. So best practice one is first create the architecture of the program, the documentation outside, and then get it to actually do it. Think of it as an architect, a civil engineer, and you then have somebody who's a brick mason who's actually laying the bricks. If you ask the brick mason to lay the bricks and design the house, they're going to do they'll do a decent job on how they know, but it's not going to be that sophisticated system. You really need the architect separately and the civil engineer to do this. So I would think of this as a brick mason versus a civil engineer or an architect. I think that'll really help you think through why this is really important. So quick current best practices. Pick software stacks with a lot of use and usage and documentation, but that's a more likelihood that you'll get good things done. Please don't choose esoteric or things that are very fancy but are too new or not many people use. This helps. Before you start, create all the documentation, the product documentation, user specification, a coding style documentation manual, an architecture manual in advance. And each time you do any change, say, hey, please refer to these documents, read them, and pull them in. You can understand why now that 1 million context becomes really important, because if it has to read 50,000, 100,000 words of just architectural documents, things become better. Spend time on the architecture. If you have a very sprawl, you might want to break down into smaller modules. So if one module works and one breaks, then at least you're only fixing the one module that breaks. This is, general programming best practice, but really applies here. And use models that are better at coding, and often multiple ones. In my case, I would use Claude and OpenAI to review and do, and then 2.5. And often a combination of these really help you look, debug, and find out what's happening. Where it works well right now, which you can use today, Simple one-screen apps, websites, easy featured games, particularly which use third-party libraries because it's just, bringing them together in a small amount of code. Scripts and small apps to run analytics or generate reports, dynamic dashboards built to pre-structured data, really good at these dashboards. Simplified workflow, which just has take something from the inputs from the user, takes it into a backend, create an output, very simple screens. And the simple backend systems are actually much better than the front end. And the backend systems, because again, the front end, it keeps trying to change things around. So you may not have a very good feel for that. What's the future? The models get better and better. Currently, 3.7 Sonnet, 2.5 Gemini Pro, 1.0 Pro, and such are leading. You can also use the Chinese DeepSeek R1s, and they are getting better and better and better. Code-focused models will change the game completely if trained on high performance and secure code. Code Llama as an attempt. There are 4 or 5 of these models coming in already, none which I could really recommend as something that's a game changer, but keep your eye on this space. We're probably expecting 1 or 2 of these any minute now, so either this month or the next month. And of course, stack consolidation and focus. Most of the models right now say, hey, we support almost everything. And what's going to happen is you're going to see models which are really good at coding in one stack. We use either a base programming language, Python, Go, Node.js, and that's what we know. And as long as you stick within the confines of this framework, it'll be very, very high quality. And I think admitting that up front is going to really help a lot of companies get this stuff to work. What happens to software developers? So, and this is a big question that I ask all the time, right? Is it the end of software developers? It's the end of coding. So here's the thing. Expert software developers with a systematic approach to software development and engineering win. They can design this, they can architect it, they can prompt extremely high quality code with specific instructions. If you are a very experienced software developer, but non-systematic, you're just one of those coding geniuses that can just pump out code without even thinking of it, it's a little bit more of a struggle because you really have to do this in a systematic manner. For those of you who are really old, if you remember the old days of rational rows and all of those, that type of back to systematic really helps. But also current agents are good at other things, generating test case and low-level code reviews, documenting all phases of the project, project management, updates, testing, audit of final product, client internal communications, so on and so forth. And even just taking old code and refactoring it or running through and doing a basic bug check and audit, these really increase productivity. And one of the things you're seeing in the companies you're working with is that although developers are not very happy moving to vibe coding, and I can understandably so, particularly if they're not confident in the models, there's a lot of productivity gains around this. And so even for a low-level developer, 3-4 years experience, who's not an expert with those 10-15 years, this should help them speed up by at least 30 to 40%, even if it's just using it for documentation, they're using it to solve quick code problems that they're having. And of course, senior developers with a lot of experience and a systematic coding style, if you're seen as high as 5 or 10x, one single coder that, a 6-month job they're knocking off in 10 days, but you really need to know what you're doing here. The basic key takeaway for us here is software development companies and individual developer teams need to completely redo their workflows to take full advantage of and get that blended productivity, right? So that's something you're going to have to really look at. It's not going to be something that you're going to see that happens in a very simple 2-minute, 3-minute, hey, we just bought GitHub Copilot, or we just put cursor and suddenly all of our team is full thing. It does require transformation. It does require each and every person to understand AI beyond the tech stuff. And I think that's where we really need to support and push developers that, hey, yes, whether you trust AI or not to do code, AI outside of code can do a lot to help you be more productive. Because a lot of times what developers do, especially in software teams, are things that are not generally just code. There's a whole structure around it. And so, particularly those who have had old school AI ML experience before 2022, 2023, this is going to be an adjustment. The other second thing, I'm going to cover this quickly in 5 minutes, is the Model Context Protocol. This is a massive, big launch that has happened in the last 2 to 3 months. So very quickly, it's essentially a translator for large language models and agents. And this has been first championed by Claude Anthropic. It is becoming an industry standard after being endorsed by OpenAI. Now, what MCPs does very clearly is translate between LLMs and a set of APIs and connectors. for large language models and other Gen AI tools. And by using the power of the MCP servers to translate, it means connecting LLMs to any app or data source easy. I'm going to show you an example of this. But this happened yesterday. Google is finally in. And of course, Google did launch their agent-to-agent A2A model as well. But then Sundar Pichai goes on the internet, holds a poll, and now has fully endorsed, as of yesterday, MCP. So Google's also in. And so this is fast now becoming the industry standard. A quick warning, it is very new, and it's going to change multiple times in the next few months. So please keep a watch as it evolves. But essentially, it's very simple. You have an MCP client, your large language model, your ChatGPT, your Claude, your Gemini, and you just give them a server address. And the server address, ideally made by the company which is running this data store or app, explains to your LLM or client how to access specific resources, either retrieving from data sources, executing some programming, providing some more prompts. And essentially what the MCP servers do is they give a list of resources they can support. And the MCP client, the large language model, for example, chooses, I can use this, I can use this, I can use this, or I can use this, and therefore being able to access the data. There are three things that MCP servers try to make to LLMs: tools. These are small apps or executable code that can perform certain tasks. Only I'll show you an example. Resources such as file contents, file access, API, SaaS connectors, ERP connections, all of those. And then prompt directories and systems which extend beyond. For example, if you want to create a specific report, there might be a series of prompts that need to be run. And the MCP server would be able to give this to the large language model. What are the practical uses? I want the AI LM to access a file directory on my local computer. I want it to connect to my accounting software via API to make an invoice. I want to query my vendor database hosted in SQL. I want to run a standard template for an analysis dashboard. I want to access my cloud drive from my enterprise provider. I want to search my email boxes via APIs for updates. I want to run a series of prompts for creation of a report. Essentially, we want to connect anything to everything. Now, you can do that using APIs right now. But it's really difficult. It takes a long time to understand the APIs, to explain to the large language model what the API is, give it the connectors, all of this. What MCP does, it just acts as a very simple translator that translates between APIs, connectors, databases, file systems, all of these things, and AI. And I'll show Claude, since they're the ones who sort of really pioneered this. And so this is Claude Desktop, and here I have a simple MCP. So the installed one, I said I've installed a file system MCP, and what the file system MCP allows me to do is to have access to my local directory and bring everything into Claude. So read file, move file. And so ideally, if let's say you want to connect to your ERP or accounting system, you would just add that, install the name of the accounting system MCP or the file server or the cloud drive or whatever MCP, and that would then give you access to these tools. And once the LLM has access to the tools, it can use them. So in this case, I said, please give me a list of files in my directory. I'll find files in the directory, let me do it for you. Here's the list, here are the financials. Please analyze this, take this PDF, analyze and present the full report. And it was able to analyze the full PDF, run all the numbers for me, give the report, and then save the contents back. And so I can now fully interact with my file system without having to really worry about anything. And I think that's the power of the MCPs going forward, is being able to connect all of these, anything to anything, fairly quickly without having to really worry. And so this would be either your model, your agent, your chatbot, or your workflow, your workflow agent API, etc. And they'll connect to the MCP, which will be nominated hopefully by the data source or there. So this one will take care of all the connections and all the deals here, and this will explain it and act as the translator between the large language model and all. And same thing for any SaaS ERP system, same thing for any file system. You will have multiple MCPs specializing in giving access to various things. Now, ideally, the MCPs should, in my opinion, be supported by the company who is making the data source, the SaaS, the file system, because it is a security issue. This is how it's like a 10 line of code that creates an MCP server. The reason why I show this to you is not to scare you, but more to sort of just show you how easy it is to make an MCP. And this one allows the LLM to connect to an accounting software using APIs, create and search for invoices. But it also means that since it's becoming an industry standard and it's really easy to do, I hope every single major company will launch their official MCP server to help agents connect, help LLMs connect. So if you have a SaaS application, if you have a data source, if your company has a software that they provide or a service, please consider starting to launch an MCP, which is officially supported by you, and that can then your clients can just put that MCP into any large language model and start using your products and services through that. Quick security considerations. MCP can be made using a few lines of code, therefore anyone can make them. There are a lot of them. Let me show you a list of MCPs you can try out. Right now, most of these only sort of work with Claude, but give it a week. OpenAI is fully launching with this. And here is the official MCP website, the Model Context Protocol. This is the quick start for getting Claude access if you like to use Claude onto your files and folders. Please be careful. Again, here is a link to some of the Model Context Protocols servers that are there. And you can already see there's some reference servers, everything from GitHub to Google Drive to Project to Slack to SQLite to Brave. Official third parties, everything from Stripe, Chargebee to all of this stuff that comes on. This is increasing massively now that Google has responded. And so many, many, many MCP servers, including Zapier, Zero, all of these. And you're going to see some community servers which bridge the gap, everything from Airbnb to Discord to GitHub. Now, again, please be mindful of security considerations. Any MCP server you're doing, you are giving access to your systems and agents. And so you want to make sure that you trust the source of that MCP server, either the official company or trusted open source authors which have been vetted and checked off by compliance. The good news is that these servers can be run anywhere. So they don't have to be on the internet. They can run locally on your computer servers or private data center. The example I gave you, that server runs entirely on my computer and is not on the internet, and it accesses my local files. The final MCP dreams, anytime you want to connect an LLM agent, anything, just select the appropriate MCP server, enter the credential, and it works out of the box. Please try this out. This is absolutely brilliant. It's going to get easier and easier and easier. But what you should be able to do within 2 weeks in Claude and in ChatGPT and hopefully Google as well is anytime you want to connect any agent, any chatbot to any data, you would just load that MCP server, give it the URL, give it your username and password, and now you can start easily interacting and being able to use that. And so this will really unlock a lot of use cases for everybody, make this a lot easier. And a lot of the time and energy that has been wasted in trying to get the connectors to work and getting stuff in and data from APIs will get resolved fairly fast. Let's go to the updates. Okay, so I do see a lot of Q&A coming in. Please put more questions. I'm going to take them all together there, and I'm going to give very specific recommendations. And again, the more detail you give, the better recommendation. If I do see that you shared confidential information, I'm not going to share it publicly. When I read it out, I'll try to summarize it a little bit. But again, the more information you tell me about your question, the more specific advice I can give to you. And so that helps me a lot because then what I'm doing for you isn't generic. It's something very, very targeted to your current situation. The Shopify memo was a big deal, I think, for CEOs come in, basically hiring freeze. We're never going to hire anybody at Shopify unless you have fully learned AI in many ways. We're going to help you learn AI, and we expect you to learn AI. But also, we're hiring no more people at Shopify. If we hire somebody, you have to explain why AI can't do this job, right? And there's an also way to share. They've started doing anything, and that's a very nice thing. It was a self-leaked memo, and I think this is where the future is. I'm going to take that opportunity here to say, hey guys, if you haven't already become a Vjal member, I'm going to put the link in the thing. There is, of course, a discount code, which I will share with you. And let me get that in for you as well. And let me put that in the chat. Perfect. So that's in the chat, and that'll give you a discount. Again, the best rate, of course, is Teams membership. Please sign up. If you prefer learning in person, we have our two new upcoming in-person events. I'll share the link. One is in New York. This is going to be 2 days, which I think is going to be amazing. And the first day is a full end-to-end fundamentals, great to align your teams and get up and running. And then the second day, we're actually going to sit and work on your entire roadmap and really how to do this step by step. And again, great to attend. If you've attended an in-person workshop with me before, think about coming to day two. If you have teams who you want to get aligned, consider sending them on both days. And please do come for day two at least, because here we have those wonderful abilities to come up with your transformation plan. And ideally, if you come in teams, we can do that as a team exercise in work. I am going to share with you that link as well to sign up. And there's also a Dubai edition. And by the way, if you want us to do one locally in your city, just let us know. We'll figure out a way to make that happen. Our goal is, again, 1 million people. It's not going to happen unless we give more opportunities, more cities, and more time for people to learn. I think the big one for the last 30 days, I think, which is making waves apart from the next one, is the Google Gemini 2.5 with Canvas. And this is absolutely amazing for two reasons. Now, this, by the way, is a long context, deep comprehension. For many of you whose AI stuff isn't working, this is why it doesn't work. As the number of words you put in the chat or tokens goes up, right? And so by this time, if every time you put something in the chat, it consumes this context window, right? And back and forth included. So as you go down in the chat more and more, we go from to 400 words, 1,000 words, 2,000, 4,800, so on and so forth, all the way here. But you just look at this, even for example, O1, which is really good in one of the new models, by the time it hits 120,000 words, it's basically only understanding 50% of what's happening, right? If you look at something, as good as Claude, again, by the time it starts to hit your code base after 8,000, 9,000 words, suddenly there's a drop. And this is why you see both in coding and writing and really in this why these AI models, as you get chats. This is why one of the best practices we have, and we have a new best practices course, really explains that you need to shift context windows, open a new chat, don't keep going, because the fall is pretty impressive when you really look at it. And let's look at where Gemini is, right? And so this is the new Gemini as of writing, the new version, and pretty much it's able to maintain like a 90% thing at 120K, right? And then that's a fair jump, and that nobody is able to see or reach those numbers. And Gemini 2.5 supports up to 1 million, and that's why you see in code and writing and all of this there. So please remember, even if you're using a great model, as your chat grows long, its ability to do anything or to understand anything is going to collapse. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so impressed with the 2.5. And now you're going to see a lot of fights on making sure your context windows work. So please be careful as you figure that out. The DeepSeek version 30324. One of these days, someone has to hold a full class on how to name models so they don't confuse the hell out of everybody in the public. Well, this is DeepSeek. They're also coming up with more and more confusing names. But the DeepSeek V3 was fantastic, but the V3032, apart from, of course, getting some nice bumps everywhere, including in Live Code Bench. By the way, Live Code Bench is a great one to look at for ability to solve complicated coding problems, not for overall vibe coding. And again, that's because it's optimized for solving single problems, not understanding a full code base and really giving big results, right? So just remember that. But the MIT license is fantastic. And the MIT license allows you to use it for almost any purpose. And this is a great open source a tool, which they've given everything to everybody. And just a quick thing on this, we covered this in the last update, but I think a lot of people don't realize that by DeepSeek going full open source, this actually helps the chip companies. It helps everything, because you had maybe 4 or 5 frontier labs who had achieved amazing work, and then everybody else was just left behind. And with DeepSeek open sourcing and giving everything free to everybody, it resets it. So, and that's why we're seeing a huge explosion of now frontier models again. And we're going to see sovereign models. Every country is going to want to have one or two models that they're funding and they're really pushing. And so we reset the start. And the next question you should get, Addy, then why are we doing $500 billion on OpenAI? Well, it is Mayoshi-san, and you have to add 1 0 every time he's involved. But even then, and we'd covered this in the last week's update, the models have hit the limits. All the models today are, nothing much has changed in the last 1 year. They're all adding tools. They're adding search. They're adding reasoning. They're adding self-prompting. That's what's causing the massive leap to happen, not fundamental models. And so if you've hit a wall, you need to train 10, 20, 30, 40 models to see which methods are actually working. And that's why you need larger data centers. But this is now allowing a lot of countries and companies to catch up across the world. And it's great for the ecosystem in general, perhaps not for the sleep deprivation of people who are in the frontier model companies, because I know it's hard. But at least as long as the open source systems keep continuing, the accessibility of these to sovereigns, to companies, to individuals will continue. Please check the exam results. We talk about these exams, right? MMLU Pro, Diamond, Math, Contrary. We're seeing a lot of these, and you're saying, oh, this is better, this is worse, this is better, and etc. Please read the test. Please see what they did. Most of the companies are having a huge issue where they're coming out with a model, and their marketing guys have to make it look as if it's the best, or at least topping in something. So they're not lying, but they are selectively showing data rather than showing you the full picture. And I think this is important for all of you to please just check the exam if it matters for your use case. Don't just go with the number. They might have tried to use an exam that's better suited and may not be applicable to you, or just, given some comparisons versus the others. The major update has been the Chat GPT image model. If you haven't, please go back and try it now, load 4.0 and try these imaging there. And this is a full one-shot generation, right? The entire thing from scratch. My Gillibleyization, which Gilbily gives me two versions, and I can recognize my quote also in this one. But all the details, this entire poster, everything was done one shot. And character consistency is now here. Your ability to modify this is now here. So this is the biggest update, I would say, of the month. Please use this, and it's in your ChatGPT 4.0s. Go in, all the image prompts that couldn't work a year ago that you were trying even 3 months ago, marketing posters, social media, taking a picture of yourself and getting things done and editing it. Most of those now work. It's a giant leap forward. And this is a image native model. And that means that it understands fundamentally what's happening with images. So please try it out. We have an entire course on this in terms of thinking through design think and how to really use these image models to the next level. But this is accessible to you now. And in my opinion, this is one of the most awaited leaps that we've been doing, and it's here. And it's a fundamental game changer for everybody. You can make micro edits, change this, do this, and it'll keep it consistent, and it'll make those changes for you. A true reasonable design and image partner. And again, great for expert graphic designers who can explain what they want, but also great for everybody else to just get amazing images. Again, for social media, for memes, for marketing, advertisement. You can upload your logos now, and it'll bring your logos in. You can upload your product now. It'll bring your product in. All of those are now working. So if you haven't tried it, please go back and try it now. This is truly impressive and a complete game changer. Midjourney 7 came out, and you can see incredible leap in quality. Midjourney has been focusing very much more on now personalization, and rather than in terms of just general quality. The quality has improved. It's not improved to a point where I'm like, oh my God, the world has changed. But it's still very, very impressive. They're still coming out with new updates every day. So if you want hyper realistic, gorgeous photos, Midjourney is still pretty much either number one or number two. I'll show you the other contender in a second. Please use this for them. They haven't reached the consistency is still an issue. Text is still an issue. They're getting better on that. But in terms of just gorgeous, amazing images, styles, consistency, all of that is done. Please have a look at Midjourney 7. Reeve is the new latest dropout, which is basically fighting with Midjourney for number one and number two slots. And what's very interesting, of course, is they're able to do very complex prompts as well. Right? So there are these great cinematographic shots that you wouldn't really get otherwise. They're absolutely amazing. And to have a look at Reeve, they were in stealth for a while. They've now fully come out. And again, competing very successfully with Midjourney for these unbelievably realistic. Ideogram 3 also released. Again, Ideogram, one of the principal things that they have been on is text consistencies. And they've really, really improved the fundamental model itself. Again, there's text and style and consistency. Please have a look. Again, I think if it weren't for the fact that ChatGPT 3.5 upgraded to the new image model, now at level 4, I think DALL-E was still what, 3.5 or 3.0 age, right? It's almost a year and a half old. So if it weren't for that thing, this would probably be in the big reveal model for the month. But there's, thunder has been stolen by the new OpenAI model. It's not DALL-E, so please don't use the DALL-E bots. You have to go into 4.0 and do it from there. But please try these out. These guys out there, fantastic in terms of imaging, style, and all, especially if you're working on text. Google Project Astra came out 3-4 days ago. If you have an Android phone, it's something you should try. And if you install Gemini on your phone, you can give it access to look at your screen. And so it's really starting. We're really seeing the AI assistants really started to come in, where you can give it access to your screen, and because it can take screenshots and read your screen and what's happening, you can tell it to do things from it. It's pretty good. Highly recommend you try it. But I think if nothing else, it's a great preview on what AI assistants on phones will start looking like in about a year's time. You're still waiting for Apple's intelligence and Siri to kick off. If you remember from the last update, they have apologized. They should have had something out by now. It's going to be delayed by about 3 to 6 months. But I think this is a great view forward to seeing on how AI assistants will play with us in our current workflows on at least phones. I presume laptops are a little bit more complex, but Astra works really well. And just very quickly, video on that.
The golden ratio is pretty famous, but here's a fun fact. It pops up in unexpected places, like the spiral patterns of sunflower seeds and pine cones. That's Luca Pacioli, and he was quite the math whiz back in the Renaissance.
And again, can comment and see based on whatever you're looking at. Very cool. Llama 4 dropped, and again, so the good news is their ELO scores have been pretty good, which is nice. If you note, they are showing themselves a little bit high on the ELO, but we're not seeing that game-changing upgrade. So it's definitely state of art. It's definitely competing with all the top ones. But I think what's very interesting about them, of course, is the factor, is the cost. So if you're using, if cost has become a big issue for you, particularly, the O1 costs, and Claude 3.7 is also pretty expensive now, and 4.0 is decent, but having a model whose API costs is all the way back, you can run it locally, you can run it on your laptop, not the 10 million context, but the smaller version. You can run it on your laptop. You can run it on a Grok with a Q. All of this is now available. It's open source. If you're starting to feel the pinch on AI builds, consider at least moving some workloads off to Llama 4. And I think it allows a lot of workloads that we would want to do it because of the expense become fairly free. As many of you would have seen this now in WhatsApp, where you have the ability to use Meta AI. Unclear if they're fully deployed Llama 4 to everybody, but you should be now able to start seeing the benefits of those AI integrations finally come in for Facebook. It's a good model. Have a look. It's open source. And this is the major leap, I think. The last one was held by Google and Mistral at around 2 million contexts for a large publicly available well-used model. A 10 million context is insane. And we're going to see this again go to 50, 100 million more and more. And I think the larger the context, the more it can process and understand about everything in you. And that's going to be amazing. So please try it out. We'll have more updates on Llama 4 and what it means for a 10 million context to do. But if nothing else, at least being able to scan code bases and make reasonable inferences from those code bases, even if it's not good at code, I think that's fantastic. I mean, nobody can do 10 million. That is a drop model at the moment. You're seeing the numbers again. Some of them they are selective. 3 models: the Scout, the Maverick, and the Behemoth, which is doing it. They are showing better than certain things. Again, they've done a little bit of issues here. You can find those articles online. I won't really go into that. So some drama around it, but please, I think that is something that it's still a state-of-the-art model. It's still open source, and I think they did a recent job. There are 2 key researchers, if not more, who have resigned, including the head of the Llama project at Meta, and she stepped down, as well as a couple of other researchers. Unclear if there is any interlink, but you are going to see a lot of accelerations from Meta in this space. I think they're doing a great job, and it's only going to get better. Baidu, for those of you who are tracking the Chinese models, has Ernie and Ernie 4.5 and X1. And again, state of the art, working really well, reasonable priced model, able to hit both multimodal text, audio, video, image, as well as pure text capability. Please try it out. Many of you who are logging in from countries who have restricted access to certain models due to regulatory or controls, Baidu's one is probably available in yours, and it's very comparable to all of them. And so we're seeing the Chinese models, DeepSeek has been the one which is taking all the news, but we're seeing a whole bunch of these all across the world come out and do. I want to look at this. This was the IQ results, and 2 interesting things. This is the Mensa official test and the offline test. Part of the problem why we are seeing a huge differential is the fact that the models cheat, not intentionally often, but because they scrape the internet, they get the answers to the test. So it's not truly an IQ test because they already know the answers, so they do it. And I think this is a nice way. What they did was to take an offline test versus the Mensa Norway online ones, and you see this differential that comes between there. I mean, you would think someone of the 130 IQ would really be able to help, but it's an offline score. It's there, and I love this curve, right? This is sort of going all the way up here, and we're going to see this go there. And I think once you reach around here is where we're going to start seeing those amazing scientific great discoveries and all we've been all waiting for, right? And what I like about this chart is that if you tell me that Chat GPT or Claude or etc. is at a 93 IQ or a 100, I'm willing to believe that. If you tell me it's like 125, 104, I'm a little bit less likely to believe you. And so I think this is difference between being offline and online, but we are seeing the actual numbers go up. And I think this is going to be the next thing. I don't know, we had a huge conversation about AGI in the previous update, so please look those up if you'd like. I'm not sure this is AGI, but at least I'm happy with how this is looking at in terms of trend, but I'm also happy that they're not that smart. They're not that smart yet. It might be at the end of the year, but I think this is a reasonable way to look at this. Of course, some of an open source drama. I thought so. So Meta's license says you cannot use it for if you have 700 million active users. I think if you have 700 million active users in your company, you have other problems and more money to spend on proprietary models. But this was sort of part of an announcement that they're going to, one of their models they are going to open source. And they've obviously learned from DeepSeek and imbibed all the thing. If you remember DeepSeek from last month's update, gave all their methods, not just the AI methods, the backend, the training, the file systems, all of this. And so we're going to see across the board, all the labs get more efficient, more cost conscious, and ability to execute higher. But it'll be interesting to see which model and what OpenAI, which used to be open, will get it. Manas AI, if you remember the awesome agentic AI that takes control of a computer and does everything, and ended up being 20 different tools stuck up on Claude and now maybe DeepSeek as well. Got access, been running it for about a week, 2 weeks. Disappointed a little bit. I think it failed 80 to 85% of the tasks I gave it, and the less ones okay, it was okay. I mean, it wasn't something that would be, oh my God, the world has changed anywhere. And it's basically a remote a robotic process automation stuck to a Claude LLM, right? And you see it as it does it. It gets lost. It figures that this. I think it's a great demo to show what the possibilities are. I think they're going to have to use a much better model. I'm hoping maybe with 2.5 plugging in Google's 2.5 Gemini Pro or something else, it'll get a lot smarter. But yeah, 15-20% was fairly good. Things that are obvious, again, the limitation is the AI model itself, not as much the agentic tool. There are many open source versions of this as possible. If you need robotic process automation, do check it out for basic form filling and logging into websites and looking at this and that is fantastic, but nothing that you would say, hey, go AI, go do this, and it'll be able to do something. It's very, very basic at the moment. Grok 3 is now in Telegram. Grok 3 is the truth-seeking, uncensored or reasonably uncensored model by X, and you can now access it for free within Telegram and just search for Grok AI. Obviously, there are a lot of fake Groks, so make sure you choose the correct one. And you're able to do it free for all Telegram Premium subscribers, and they have full access to this as well. And I think ChatGPT is also has a WhatsApp bot as well, so it's interesting to see Grok 3 in Telegram. Video models, HiggsField AI. This is the big drop, and massive update on this. And if you remember, View 2 was the big one there, and you're seeing a lot more. I would say, well prompted, but also the ability to be very careful on what scene selections. All the videos that you're seeing online would use a lot of video AIs are heavily edited, lots of post-production. So very good if you're a professional video editor in your hands, not very good if you can't single prompt your way to most amazing things that you see online. The Tom and Jerry was a big reveal. And this is a Stanford and NVIDIA project where they took hundreds and hundreds of hours of Tom and Jerry videos and trained a new model to just create one shot, one prompt Tom and Jerry videos. They created about 100 of these, and they had humans evaluate them to see the comparisons. There's a great paper you can find. I think they did a great job. There are mistakes here and there. If I go back to 6 or 7-year-old me who started seeing Tom and Jerry, perhaps, I would not notice them. So I think there's an incredible job in terms of keeping the story consistent, really being able to keep the vibe and all there. And so this, I think, more than anything else, is a big leap forward, where you're going to see a lot of intellectual property, which has been there for a while, being able to be put into these models and create custom versions of them again and again and again. And you can see the cost and change that will actually happen. So I think this was a big one forward, at least. For those of you who are trapped in getting data hell into LLMs, we have an entire best practices module. If you haven't taken it, please take it on that. And that is something that I highly recommend each and every one of you try. Dockling is a nice new one that gets some of those best practices by IBM. It is open source. So please try this. I think this was a good leap forward. There are many of these available as well. LangParse and all and such also does a lot of these. The update no one asked for. This is Kawasaki Corelio. And they've basically created the Kawasaki, for those of you, of course, know, is a motorcycle maker and a scooter maker. And so they have launched the Kawasaki bot, which is a wolf size robot that you can ride like a horse, and you can go up and down terrains and all. Again, no one asked for this, no one was waiting for this, but it's here. And so if you wanted to ride a wolf that can go on multiple terrains, my favorite joke was, you think they were going after human jobs. No, they were really aiming for the horses. So if you need a horse combined with a motorcycle, Kawasaki has it now, and they're using a lot of AI in this in terms of balancing, in terms of doing. It is hydrogen powered apparently. You can't buy it in the dealer showroom near you. They're going to come out in 6 months with a lot. This is a real thing apparently, and so they are taking it on a worldwide tour. And at some point, they're going to get this out. If somebody wants to buy it, if one of you wants to buy it, please buy it. Let me know if you like it or not. I doubt it's going to be cheap. Last bit, this happened, I think a few hours ago, maybe 24 hours ago. The ChatGPT extended memories. ChatGPT, if you enable the memory feature, can now remember every conversation you had with it. A lot of fun in asking, hey, ChatGPT, what do you think? I don't know if this is a boon or a disaster. As part of our best practices, we actually recommend disabling memories in ChatGPT because it starts mixing all your chats. You were talking about work, talking about personal life, you were doing some random project, you were having an existential crisis, and it'll take all of those and it'll pollute all your prompts after that. And so, in fact, in our best practices, we actually tell people not to use it. But again, this is something that is up to you. It could be pretty useful, particularly for customization. Some people just like it, but it is out. Have a look. Again, just be warned, it will mix and match everything that you do. So if you have multiple personas, if you're using AI really well, this is probably not a good thing long term. But hey, if it works for you, it works for you. There are a lot more minor updates. A lot of things are coming in. I'm going to push some of this there. I'm on the R. So, I'd like to stop here on the official updates parts. Would love to jump into the Q&A. Please put your Q&As there. The great part of having live office hours, being able to actually answer questions, deep dive, and do it. And we'll do that for the next 15 minutes or so. If there are more questions, happy to keep going beyond that. For those of you who stayed till now, thank you very much. I know I get this question every time. You will be getting a participation and attendance certificate that you can use. And I think this is something that will really, really help. First off, let's go. Thank you, anonymous attendees and all earlier who talked to me about my slides screwing up. First one, Byron. Looking at a knowledge base, RAG, then 2050 file uploads, not vast. So the basic question is, I'm looking at creating a knowledge base, larger than about 50 files, not vast bit of Copilot, just a personal agent, but ultimately someone, option third-party writers, or a relatively simply build of your own. Byron, this is a great question. Now, again, I wish I had more details. What type of files, text, PDFs, this, etc. But I'll try to extend it to everybody else. What if you had 100 files and you want to create a knowledge base from there? How would you do it? So I want you to think about it from two perspectives. One, you have to convert all those files into a better structure or unstructured, but principally text that an LLM would understand, right? So stage one, Byron, convert all of those files using whatever converter you'd like. There are lots of them available. We have an entire module on looking at all the options, but you would convert them to a structured or unstructured data, but that is text. Now, you might have some images, you might have that, but you would pull those separately. You would then store them somewhere, and that could be a file system. It could be a database, a NoSQL database, or an object database, or a vector database. Byron, don't like vector databases for this sort of thing. And we have an entire segment on why you shouldn't use vector databases for this. I know everybody loves them because they're cheap, but don't use them if it's not semantic search. And then I would say, what is this search engine that is going to search for the appropriate data to bring it to the LLM? Right, what is that search? Is it an enterprise search engine? Is it a Kendra or an Elasticsearch? Is it a vector database search? What is the search engine required to do that data? And then finally, the large language model. How is the large language model going to tell that search engine and bring that data in? And this is a very simple drag. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of things you can do. Byron, depending on your use case, if it's just for personal, as you said, it's something you could pretty much try and build on your own. Won't take that much time. But these are the questions you like to answer. What I don't like about the solutions that are currently being offered, particularly at the consumer level, or even I would say at a fairly mid-sized advanced business level, they haven't made good choices on these three. Right? I think making those good choices is what's going to get you a superior result in there. Obviously, you can complicate this to nth degree multi-search engines, multi-storage systems for different cases and data. But I'll leave that for the full class. Kami, are we going to have access session? Yes, you can access this session there. We will cut out some parts of it because which are either confidential or which we find a little bit too long. And that's just to make sure that whoever attended it gets the added value of seeing everything and not just the quickie highlight version, which may not cover everything that you want and perhaps not many of these questions in depth. Have you seen AI be able to code for Power BI? Does it play nice with Microsoft? Trent, it does, depends which language. I think that's a great job in C# and a couple of others. Specifically for Power BI, I think I would still try the 2.5 Gemini for it. It's actually really good, and I think this is something that I would look at as a very easy use case for it, just simply because it's most of the Power BI code isn't a large code base. It's singular reports, it's singular running in and out. So do try Trent. It should work really well. And let me know if it doesn't. Does the prompt for generation of the code need to be 200 words long, detailed? Actually needs to be a lot longer. Again, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to bring in a whole bunch of things, right? You're trying to bring in the instructions, the code, the coding style, the entire PRD, the product, the features, the full context, all of that. And so in fact, 2,000 words may not be enough. You probably might need 10, 20, 30,000 words to get it right. Obviously, if you're just giving a simple script, 300-400 words, 500 words would be there. But again, you're responsible for the architecture. You're responsible for being very clear on the feature set. And if you're not, it'll make choices that don't work. And all the vibe coding software I've made about maybe 7 or 8 apps for myself, have worked when I've really taken the unfortunate amount of time it takes. Of course, you can use AI for that to really, say, here's the coding style, here's the architecture, here is the technologies I want you to use, here's the libraries I want to use. Go do this now. It does a decent job for that. So you're going to need a lot more than 2,000 words for this. Luke, I love Cursor. I think Cursor, Windsurf, and all same thing, same issues, same problems. I'm not seeing a big differential between all of them right now. Particularly, they're all dependent on the same models, with a little bit better on each side. And really, one we'll see for the model updates, and one we'll see for really the coding assistant updates. But if it works on Windsurf, it works on Cursor, it works on Replit. The examples usually end up being pretty interchangeable. If one can't do it, the other can't do it right now, which is okay for now. But I think they want to get highly specialized, I hope, in the next 2-3 months. Rima, what is your recommendation to academia? That's a great question. We have a lot of recommendations for academia. By the way, everything we do is free. If you look at our membership plans, everything is free for college students. So if you are a college, please let us know. We will give the entire Vjal membership, all our prompts, the code, all the thing, all the stuff that costs $2,500 per year is free for your college, your faculty members, your kids. And if you know of a college who needs this, send them to us. We will be delighted to have them. For schools, we have a very separate program. I'll give you the link. You can sign up. We have now a dedicated team which is only working on this, and that goes to our social impact mission. We are really worried about young people, and we're worried about them at school level. We're worried about them in college level. And I'm doing a full class on entrepreneurship in the beginning of July for young people to try to see if you can get them to become builders and entrepreneurs. And right now it's special access only. If you don't want to access that program, please drop me a mail or drop someone in Vjal, one of our wonderful AI trainers or champions. If you know them, a mail, they'll get you access to the program. It's going to be access to the general public in about 15 days. We do want to give people who are part of the community first access before we give it out to everyone else. But I think this is something that for us is very important. And I think academia, where we are working on a lot of this to help them out. Harry, how do you think MCP will affect RAG? Harry, golden age of RAG, right? This is the promise of the AI models, right? And again, RAG for everyone, retrieval augmented generation, pretty much means, hey, help me copy paste what I need into AI when I need it. What I need when I need it. That's the essence of RAG. MCPs really automate that, right? Right now, to get anything into AI, you have to copy paste, you have to go through the APIs, this, that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The company changes the API specifications. I had this happen to me this morning. We had this beautiful bot that connects to all of our own thing, and one of our providers changed the specifications, and the entire thing crashed. Like, oh, someone has to sit there and redo all of this. The MCPs, ideally supported by the official company, would always have, hopefully, the updated connectors, the updated systems, and it would be able to explain it, because that's what its job is, to the LLM on how to use it. And so I think it's going to be boom time for RAG finally, particularly for native connectors to most data sources, most SaaS applications, file systems, and everything else. Jody, would MCP be in lieu of using Make or N8N? That's a great question, Jody. So Zapier, N8N, Power Automate, Make, all of these are translators, right? Their job is to help you make connecting between different apps easier. Zapier actually has an MCP. I think Make is just coming out. N8N just launched an MCP 2 days ago, right? And the reason why is that the MCPs, their job is to translate whatever you need to the model. They're not going to do the workflows. They're not going to do the multi-connectors. They're not going to connect to multiple apps. They can, but then that's just normal code, right? The reason why I use Make, N8N, Zapier, and all is to, without code, visually start connecting everything together, right? And do those workflows and all of that. So that's not something MCPs are going to do. MCPs are nothing but translating between them. In fact, MCPs are going to make N8N, Make, Zapier, and all much more powerful, because now they're just going to translate between the LLMs and Zapier and Make and N8N and all those workflows and process. So think about Zapier, Make, N8N replacing large code bases, large workflow systems, and the MCPs just translating between the agents and the apps, that could include N8N, Make, Zapier, that could include everything else. But the MCPs themselves are code, so they're not replacing Zapier, Make, or N8N at all. They'll probably just connect to them. Can I try to connect it to SharePoint, which is Microsoft 100%? I don't know if Microsoft, does SharePoint have an MCP server yet? It should. If not, it'll be in 2 minutes. I know there is a lot of open source. There are a lot of open source MCP servers for SharePoint, but I presume Microsoft is going to come out with a native one pretty soon. You can, of course, connect using Zapier MCP or N8N MCP into SharePoint, and that works for now. Thank you, Adarsh, for your great comments. On your Google Gemini example of comprehension context, this is Harry. How does that long-term memory OpenAI announced affect answer this? Not much, Harry. So the long-term memory is nothing but taking all those chats, sending to a vector document in a RAG, and referencing them as it comes in. It's not actually in the context windows of it. OpenAI is not offering you a long context window. They've just taken all your chats and put it into a knowledge base, and it's now connected to every new chat, right? So they're basically just taken that and put a knowledge base. But the context window itself is where the magic happens. Remember, anything in the context window, high priority, high quality. Anything outside of the context window, now you're dependent on the search engine, the vector database, the RAG, all those other choices, right? Which just make it either better or worse, usually worse. And so copy pasting into the prompt, and that's why I always say copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, whether it's automatic, whether it's behind the scenes, whether it's manual, the prompt is where the magic happens. And so that doesn't change anything. And I think OpenAI, I'm sure in the next update, by the way, I didn't cover it in this update, but highly likely OpenAI is going to launch O4 next week or 2 weeks down the line. We're seeing the CDN updates coming in, so that launch is going to happen. OpenAI being OpenAI, you never know if it's going to happen or not in time. But those launches are fully there, and we are going to hope for a larger context window there. I think Mistral got 2 million. Google's been really, really pushing 2 million. And for a lot of things, that's really changed. Claude just announced, by the way, I didn't cover it in the update because I think it's a minor one. They're also having a $200 plan. But with Gemini 2.5 Pro, it's not being received very well. Why would I pay for unlimited Claude for $200 for 3.7 Sonnet when you have 2.5 Gemini working better or same in code at least, with 1 million context window for $20. And so this is going to go ahead and shake it up in the next 2 weeks. Trent, you're trying to build an interface that will access our weird sounding, oh my God, I can't believe using this. It's a nice software, an accounting software along with Microsoft Planner, SharePoint, and Teams. You want the project manager to access performance data, team members to be glanced at the project to date, how it's performing, etc. Would you recommend a developer use Gemini Pro to help create this? Have you seen the software access to something that's in work? Trent, this is fairly easy to do. If you want, drop us an email. Happy to see if we can help you map this out as well. There are plenty of people locally, and your own IT team should be able to do it. But essentially, what you're trying to do is two parts, right? One is the connections, and we have a great course on this, by the way, on the data and the connectors. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to connect multiple pieces of software together, and you're trying to do AI to do some stuff with it, right? And you can use Power Automate, which you have access to since you're a Microsoft shop. You can use Zapier end-to-end, you can use code, and you just have to connect these together and start moving data between them. Once you have the data moving between them, then adding AI to that is a choice. Now you can use Gemini 2.5 Pro, you can use Azure in Microsoft already, which is something that you'll have access to very easily internally. You can use OpenAI GPT, all of those. And so you have a full selection of different AIs you can bring. The big thing is just linking these two together and choosing a software that links all these two together. Happy to send you something if it's easy to do. This is a fairly good project. Amberesh, I just completed the AI professional course and I enjoyed it. Yay, thank you, Amberesh. When you're doing the AI for healthcare course, so the AI for healthcare course is a beautiful course, and I've done it once, and I'm doing maybe 2 or 3 times again this year. We're not putting it online yet. For 2 to 3 reasons. One, there is a little bit of a liability involved in saying it's a healthcare course. And second, one of the big issues we had was we had 2 different focus, right? You have pharmaceutical companies and healthcare companies there. We have hospitals and hospital groups and all. We have clients who are on both sides, and we have other groups as well in the healthcare. And I think part of the problem with the online version is just us being able to prioritize which one goes up. The content is there. I've given the course. We're working with people. We're sending it out privately, and then just that. And so probably 2 to 3 months is my guess when we'll sort of clean it up. There's a bunch of new updates which we want to add. I will be doing the in-person ones, however, 2 or 3 times in the next year in partnership with a couple of chambers and networks and groups. Mina, hi. You forgot to ask the question, so please put the question in. For Gemini 2.5, why does the model comprehension 16 token rise for larger context? I know, right? I saw that. I think it's just testing of the inconsistency on there. Sometimes just because the way the model runs, certain contexts work better versus others in terms of noon. There are a bunch of ways to test these, needle in the haystack. Can you find this one line in 50 books? Comprehension across this and such, and that's just probably either I've not done a deep dive into that, but 2 things I've seen in the past on other models. One, it's just a testing issue; they just haven't had enough testing, or there's something with the testing system that they use that causes a drop. Or second is just how the model operates. At certain tokens, it's just not trained to use those tokens as well. And at certain large tokens, it actually gets much better. That shouldn't happen, right? But let's see. I'm going to keep an eye on this as well. I did have that in my mind when I saw that. Do you recommend building folders in the LM, having various conversations on the same topic, continuing chat? What men become degraded on volume words? Do you understand the comment correctly? Amrish, yeah. So, yes. So as the chat gets longer, the quality degrades, right? Because the more memory is going 4, 5, 6,000, 16,000, and many of those by the time in there. Folders may or may not help. And the reason why the folders is that, again, it can't understand all of it. So it's going to outsource its brain to a vector DB, to a third-party database, and selectively pull from those and bring them into your chat. When it works fantastic. When it doesn't work, it works horribly. So I'm not a big fan of folders yet. I do use them once in a while, but when it matters, honestly, I just switch to a bigger context model. I have been finding myself been using, particularly for the longer context, pulling out exactly what I need and either using it in a O1 Pro model, which worked really well for OpenAI, or defaulting to 2.5 Pro Gemini. So unfortunately, until the longer context comes, the folders aren't going to help you as much. And they're as good or as bad as uploading files. Anonymous, I've signed up for the 10 weeks AI challenge. Oh, it's quite late. So many of you are doing our online coaching programs, which are also getting launched. And I have a question that we are doing a 10-week. I joined it quite late. I've seen 3 weeks, but the audience has already reached 8 weeks now. That's true. I think we've had about 4,000 or 5,000 people who are now reaching week 8, and you're behind. Uh, uh, I'll answer the question there. If you're not part of the WhatsApp group for that group, please become. But essentially, you'll have access it for 2 weeks after the 10 weeks is up. And we've given options for you to extend if you'd like. And at a very, very, very cheap and very, very nominal rate. And we've done that especially for that retail group. And that's our AI for Retail program, which is available to a lot of people. Carolyn Hamlet, courses about making images. It's part and parcel now of the new a new AI in design and fundamental course. You will get that in your email. It's right now private access to all our early adopters, people who are there. If you need access to it, Carolyn, just drop us an email at outreach@Vjal.ai, along with what subscription plan you have with us. If you need a bump up to get early access to that, please let us know. Very happy to give you early access. But if you have a team subscription or a CEO subscription or a coaching subscription, you should see that by default and standard within the next week or two. Rebecca, I have seen someone create a model garment as full photo shoot. If they were on runway, do you have any with good results? Rebecca, for images, 100%. Kling is fantastic. We had that in our previous thing. Colors model, fantastic. ChatGPT can do that also now, fantastic. For images, there's a lot of models, and they do it really well. In fact, and then taking that image to video is the next step, right? And so most of the models aren't natively doing it on video. They are taking the image, putting the dress on the model, and then switching it to video. And that works really well. And you can use Kling for that. Very, very good model. Some of the new models that we covered now also do this really well. So this is a very good use case that is easy to do. For a built and updated AI agent, which includes reasoning, MCP, tool calling, multi-agent, what you recommend for tech stack? Oh, Rolf, huge question. Love it. Do you have like 5 hours? Okay, what are the tools that you would use now today for this? And again, it just depends how tech savvy you are. If you are super tech savvy, honestly, I would just pick an agentic framework. Microsoft has a good one. OpenAI has Swarm, which they come out. That's a really good one. Google has one. I would pick an agentic framework. I would use microservices, and I would combine those two with an MCPs of unit. I think that 3 is pretty much as close to bare metal run that you can get. Now, if you're not that happy with coding and all, even with the vibe coding options coming in, I would pick one of the agentic frameworks, which is a GUI one. And there are 4 or 5 companies that provide you with the multi-agent frameworks. But again, then you're locked in. And so we don't, at the moment, we're not recommending any GUI agentic frameworks right now, just because, by the time you actually need to do anything, if you don't know how to code, it's not really helping. And you can do a lot by just putting things in series and parallel in most easy ones like Zapier, N8N, and all of those. But if you want to go scratch, I would still say it's pick a Swarm or an agentic framework, depending on which model you want to use. All the major ones have an agentic framework right now, and microservices, Python. You're pretty much good with these 3. Can I start modeling political risk calculations? You can try. But again, back to our simple. If you're an expert, you'll do great. If you don't know what you're doing in political and risk calculations, you're not going to do great. And that's part of the problem with AI on this. Just make sure you're able to go blend in and out of understanding when it's your expertise and when it's just whatever the AI thinks at that moment, right? You can't trust it. Please get good expertise, particularly one of these high-level problems. The 3-body challenge in physics. What is the equivalent? I don't know about an equivalent. There are a whole bunch of problems. A classic one is the reversal problem. There's a whole bunch of others which are there, which just makes them all look foolish. I mean, there's like a list of 20 or 30 big ones that are currently there. And they're not going to get solved by transformers anytime soon. They're solved by adding bolt-ons to, compensate, but that's not really raw AI ability, right? And so we're looking at, again, you can go to last time's update and we have a bunch of new ways of looking at AI that help out in those. Do you see a potential of AI models to work together, Jared? Write a prompt for another models. I've actually accessed 20 models of solution, figure out which one is best to use case by testing the output. Jared, 100%. So I probably use 5 models right now for a lot of my work. I'll start in O1 Pro. I'll move on for high context to Gemini 2.5. I'll use Grok 3, particularly if it involves some kind of deep search and it requires current affairs knowledge or something that's very, very cutting edge, because you can't get cutting edge search outside of Grok really, just because of the access to X. I then usually use Claude 3.5, 3.7, although I'm using Gemini 2.5 more for code. And if I want to really do analytics or do artifacts, Claude is the only one where MCPs work right now. So I'm there for the MCP happiness. And then usually there's one more model if it's going outside the large language model. It's either a Midjourney or I'll tag on now a classic ChatGPT or assembly AI, for example, if I'm using for things. So I'm using a lot of models, often copy pasting between them. The agents that we make usually play to strengths. So if it's code, we would always go to 3.7 or 2.5. We wouldn't even touch the other models for code. But then in terms of reasoning and thinking, O1 Pro is really, really good. Current affairs, again, you're back to Grok. Search models are different. So yes, you can play to the strengths of all of these models, but I wouldn't get confused. Get to the limits of a model first before tagging on another model. And that's something which I say, you really have to hit the limits, because most people I find they're not using best practices. They haven't taken time to do. If you have access to the courses, please relook at the best practice courses. They're really, really, you can take the existing model and take it to a very high level. Once you hit the limits, then switch models. Otherwise, you're just playing the lottery, hoping that one model works, one model doesn't work, right? Have you noticed a rise in hallucinations to ChatGPT review an URL? Jason, never use ChatGPT to review an URL. This is part of our best practices, because it's going to outsource that to Bing. It's going to outsource that to Google. It's going to outsource that to a third-party search engine. And how it sees that the search engine is not going to get served the same page you see, right? So I actually vibe coded something to solve for this, where it goes and scrapes the things, takes photos and all of that and brings it back, and that works really well. Or do it manually. Please don't use ChatGPT to go to URLs. It does a terrible job. Are there slides after the lecture? You'll have access to the full lecture. So I mean, this will be there. It'll we'll break it down into something smaller. We'll cut some of the questions which are a little bit too detailed, and we'll share that. Shekhar, what should we include in the documentation? Everything. The features, the sets, coding styles is very important. Architecture choices. Use this. Just even from the basics of Vue or a React or a Flask or a Fast API, or even down to the libraries. Don't use this. Don't use this. Again, if you're an expert coder, you make those architectural choices up front. Please have those in and tell her to keep referring to it while it does it, because it'll forget. IT specialist as a school interested in applying AI's enhanced process with a field curriculum text can automatically generate chapter-based quizzes. I recommend for this integration. Yeah, just use 2.5 Gemini, 1 million context, throw in the book, chapter by chapter, ask it what it's doing. It'll do a great job. We have a full training for teachers and educators coming out. And we're working with AI schools and clubs, and then we're doing educators to help them do this. This is fairly easy. Just copy paste it. Don't use PDF. Copy paste the entire content into the prompt. Don't upload it. Where do I get the certificate of attendance, Darren? You will get it by email. So if you've stayed at least for 60 to 80% of the class, we have the graphs. Your name comes up and you'll get that by email either immediately after the webinar or maybe in a couple of hours. Amresh, what courses can I take as Vjal as a member? That's a great question, Amresh. We have a lot. So we have the full new CEO fundamentals and advanced version, which is launching early next week. You'll get an email about that. We have a full new version for design, which is part of that all the fundamental courses that moves to the advanced, best practices, all of this. You will have access to all of that. If you want access to it early, drop us an email. We'll sign you up for the early access. Thank you for staying for so long on the webinar. But most of you will have access to all the latest stuff within, I think, early next week or end next week. And we're pretty much pushing out courses now every 2 to 3 weeks. We finally figured out the right balance, and most of these courses, multi-language, 10 different language subtitles, at least, and we're starting the AI process to dub, redo, and etc. All of this. And so, I mean, yes, we'll get the certificate of offenses. One idea being exploring called AI model that been trained fine-tuning term. We want to fine-tune this. And automatically generate structured education content, produce chapter-wise interview quizzes. So yeah, so you don't need to fine-tune it. You don't need, I mean, I won't even bother fine-tuning it. You can just throw it, copy, paste the entire thing in the prompt. Quizzes, yes. Text, yes. Lesson plans, yes. Learning objectives, yes. All of those fantastic. Remember, good 500-word prompt, 1,000-word prompt, all of that easy to do. Videos, scripts, yes. Videos, no. And that's the only thing I would separate out. Audio, yes. Fairly easy to do, and that's 5 to 10 minutes work. It's not something that's really difficult. Can BI tools will be replaced with AI tools? Mary, they will 100% be replaced. In fact, we're replacing them already. I don't see BI as a going concern beyond a point. And just it's not just AI, right? BI itself has suffered. Very few people actually log in and see the reports. No one needs an 100% updated dashboard where they're staring at it every 2 seconds doing update. Most people see reports 4 to 5 times a day. And you can just generate those using AI and just send it to them. You will see a mishmash between BI and AI, starting with insights and all started coming in. But yeah, I mean, BI as we know it today is dead. I think the good part about it is if you've invested in BI is you spend time cleaning and getting your data up. And I think that's a big jump. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. Golas, the trainer program, absolutely. Let me give that link to you again. And please become an awesome trainer. We love you, and we really want you to go out and do amazing things using AI. So we love our trainers and our champions, and we're giving them access now to everything up front, much before everybody else. A couple more questions, guys, because we are hitting the hour. Frederick, what are you seeing when it comes to self-learning LLMs? Frederick, I hope you've taken the course on how these work at Vjal. We have the new version up. We're not seeing them. And the reason why we're not seeing them is, again, because the LLMs, once they go to the training oven, 6 months, 100 million. Okay, now it's 2 months and 5 million or 2 million, depending who you ask, and getting smaller ones get smaller. So you're not self-learning as much as you're sort of taking a model, finishing it. Once the model gets finished, you're then taking new data and then making a new model and finishing it, and a new model and finishing it. So right now you're not learning, you're just making new models faster, right? So it's not self-learning, so to speak. You're upgrading the model. It's like software version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's not, I mean, you can automate that, but that's not really what's happening. The self-learning, what is really happening is just feeding in the context, feeding in like the memories and all. So it's kind of superficial. There's a lot of research going in on this. I've seen some good papers on people trying this at the level. Nothing that's commercially available, nothing that's academically available also that works. So this is going to be far. And I think, you're going to get good arguments from people. Is it actually self-learning, or are you just looping data again? It's like, did it learn? Did it loop the data? Did it actually retrain itself? About a year, and by the way, a lot of this has nothing to do with the technology. It's just about the cost and to do it. So you could theoretically create a very small self-learning model that looks as if it's self-learning. But I think within about a year or two, as the chips and the techniques get better, there are 2 or 3 different non-transformer also that we'll start seeing a little bit of what one could reasonably argue with somebody is self-learning-ish behavior. But true self-learning, and not using the current methods that are, prevalent. They'll have to pick one of the oddball ones that no one's used, and certainly not at scale. Can you tell the difference between MCP and API in terms of connection to data? One more time, APIs are connectors, right? And they use either HTTP or REST or all protocol, usually the web to connect things together. But you have other connectors, UDP, TCP, raw connectors at that level. You have higher level database connectors, packets, all of those. So let's look at 30 different types of ways to connect apps together. API is one of them. MCPs translate all of those, including APIs, including all of these to the large language model. So you don't have to explain to the large language, here's the API, here's the endpoint, here's the form, here's everything, here's the SQL connector, here's the thing, here is the TCP raw connector, all that you don't have to explain. The MCP explains that to the AI. And so you will still have APIs, but the MCP will explain those APIs to the large language model. So you and I don't have to deal with that. Last one, Michael, creating slide decks. Michael, we did that a year ago. We do that as in day one in our class, so we'll see how to do that. Please take the online course. You'll learn how to do it very easy. And last question, are we doing a program design for the construction industry? We have a program for real estate, which has about 3 hours for construction, mostly around bid management and audit and site management and safety. A lot of it on using the YOLO models to count inventory on site and how to increase performance, how to take RFPs responses from 30 days. So we have that as a course in person. We don't have it online. I will be doing an AI for real estate course in person again sometime this year. If you wanted to be in your city, please drop me a message, drop us a message, let us know. Happy to prioritize that. Right now, it's just us figuring out where the demand is and how do we move calendar things around. And one of the things that I do try to say is that for many of these new courses, I do want to teach it in person 2-3 times before we bring it online, just because we really want to get that level of feedback from users, which only happens live, and get the content to an absolute level where it can be just sent online and it's obvious. There's a lot of things you can do in terms of talking to people, explaining to people in person, which doesn't happen as well online. And that's why all the new content I tend to use in person, and then maybe there's a lag of 3 to 6 weeks right now before we find a way to make it look better online and to post it up with the quizzes and all of this. We're shortening that, but AI for healthcare, AI for real estate, all of that is going to take a while. AI for retail is done, and we have a cohort of 2,000-3,000 people going through that program right now. But that'll be available to everybody, I think, in about 2 to 3 weeks, once we just done some last minute changes. Perfect, guys. Thank you so much. I've gone way over time. Always brilliant. Thank you for the hundreds of you who still remained till the very end. And please fool around and figure out. Join us for amazing AI things. Become a member if you haven't. And this is going to be an incredible journey for the next couple of years. And we just need to pace ourselves. And I will see you all hopefully in the next update, and hopefully if given the opportunity in person. Thank you and have a great morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. Bye-bye.